A lot of Broward right here on set with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now you take us to real Broward.
Well,
good luck.
Chuck Todd, you know there's no better place to cover a close race than Broward County, Florida.
There you go. The Florida of Florida. Good luck, man.
Thank you, sir. I'll tell you, our viewers, why we're here. Today is the day. Moments ago, the state here made it official, a second recount in this photo finish Senate race, and this one is by hand. The first recount showed the results very similar to where we were last week. Republican challenger Rick Scott up 12,603 votes over the Democratic Senator Bill Nelson. The margin, 41 votes higher than in the initial results. Talk about a squeaker. But the story today also included confusion, lawsuits, and even some missing votes as some counties failed to meet today's deadline.
We gave a heroic effort, and given probably 3 or 4 more hours, we might have made the time. It was a heroic effort, and we just completed uploading our Saturday results as is required in law.
That was Palm Beach County, quite messy. Hillsborough County also saying they have to resubmit their original results because they had 2 power outages during the recount, counting roughly 850 fewer votes than they had from the original Election Day calculation. Now, here in Broward, the center of so much controversy, election supervisor Brenda Snipes not answering questions when they announced they'd finished this recount.
Supervisor, do we know how many votes we have?
I'm sorry, I didn't look at the votes. We've been desperately trying to get the report done. We'll put it on the website and everybody will be able to view it.
I could tell you I was in that room today, and it was not exactly a show of force. When they did announce the numbers, there were about 2,000 fewer votes than the initial results. That's not a good thing because it would raise the question of where those votes went. A reporter who's going to join us as part of our coverage this hour, writing every reporter in the room was confused about the discrepancy.
Can you read that one more time? Please read it one more time.
The number in the governor's race doesn't seem to add up. Other candidate parties in and out?
Basically, we have we were unable to get all those vote by mail duplicates up in time for the 3 o'clock upload, so those did not get uploaded, and those are the votes that were uploaded.
So then how does it count? How did you meet the deadline?
I uploaded by 3 o'clock like I'm supposed to.
Are those identical to the first count, or have they changed slightly?
They have changed slightly.
Because you haven't finished, right?
Because we have not finished.
All week, there has been a crowd of protesters gathered outside the building where you just saw inside this elections office. And today I spoke with some of the people here. What brought you out here today, and how do you feel now that they've met this deadline today?
Okay, a lot of us out here are the grassroots, boots on the ground. I didn't even think it would be a close race, to tell you the truth.
What about you? What brings you here?
Yes, I want to make sure that every legal vote is counted.
I'm a Democrat, and we've been down here fighting to count every vote. All we want to do is count the votes.
I got to ask you, who's your friend here?
Oh, this is Desiree. She's a little Trumpster.
Now, when did Desiree first decide she was for Trump?
Oh, when he was running.
Okay, so he didn't mess around with Cruz or anyone else. This is MAGA original day one. What's it say on the back? There you go, Trump MAGA.
Trump puppy.
He is not a Democrat.
She's been to the bridge. She greets him at the bridge. He's given her a thumbs up from the limo.
Okay.
Donald Trump Jr. has gotten out and patted her.
Can I shake her hand? All right. There we go. Nice to meet you. So what brought you out here to watch the recount, and now that they've met the deadline, how are you feeling?
Listen, I'm nervous. I hope that we're winning. I want to be like Trump. Yes, we're winning. But I believe that there's some corruption going on.
So even though they've released these numbers now, and we were just discussing, the Democratic margin went down about 600 votes, you're still concerned about what?
They're going to find them in that enterprise, or maybe they'll go to the doggy park and get the dogs' votes. They might go to the shelters and see, Desiree, do you want to vote? My vote was not counted.
Well, you know, dogs have a lot of rights. They don't have the right to vote.
My dog, I was not counted. I am very upset.
Now, that's true. Dogs don't have the right to vote. Let me bring in our panel on the ground here. Jason Johnson is politics editor for The Root and a friend of the beat. Former Florida Democratic Congressman Patrick Murphy back on the show. He was with us earlier this week. And Alicia Melendez, a contributor to Bustle, a co-host of PBS's Amanpour and Company. Great to have you all here. Jason, This building behind us has been controversial.
Yes.
They returned the votes, though, and found the Democrat going down a little bit. Where do you see this going now, and does that give people more confidence that the Democratic fix wouldn't seem to be in back there?
Well, that's not going to matter to the Republicans here who think that everything is fixed. I talk to people with their QAnon shirts who think that this whole thing is a scam, who think that, votes have been created out of thin air. So that's not going to change the sort of conspiracy theorists out there. But I think for a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents, they're concerned. The vote count keeps changing, and it seems like it's sort of like instant replay. We don't care if it takes a long time. We just want to make sure you get the call right. And that's what's not happening right now. You shouldn't have these kind of discrepancies. And I think you're going to have lawsuits, and there's going to be concerns even after Monday when they do the hand
So
recount.
you're sort of taking the nuanced double position here. On the one hand, there is not the kind of fraud that the president has blatantly lied about. On the other hand, Florida doesn't do elections that well.
No, they don't. And the problem is they don't even elicit the kind of passion that you need. I was just walking around this mall in this community area. This election center exists in a separate universe than everyone else around here. I asked people, are you concerned about the recount? They're like, no, they're concerned about these sports things and the Miami Dolphins and everything else like that. And that in and of itself is a problem. You would think there would be more people concerned about the future of the representation.
You're exactly right. It's frustrating how few people, are overly concerned about what just happened in this election. I mean, this is the future of so many of our lives, of our livelihood here in Florida. And we had the pride of saying, hey, we had, Senator Bill Nelson, and we thought he'd get reelected as a Democrat. And we thought we'd have Andrew Gillum. Something like 41 of 42 polls said Andrew Gillum was going to win. Everyone was excited about it. The rallies, it was sort of Obama-esque. Yet Senator Nelson and, Gillum have both lost now, it appears, and people are going about their lives after all the passion that was there.
You're a former Democratic member of Congress here. You're saying tonight you think they're both losing. Of course, these races are not called. That's why we're in a double recount.
We are in a recount, and which is what the law states. Statistically speaking, though, when you're in this scenario, very few get overturned. When you're talking about over 10,000 especially. We do have one Democrat now statewide, Nikki Fried, our agriculture commissioner, and she's going to do a great job. She's up over 5,000 votes, but that, too, is going to a manual recount as well.
So let's do the numbers and then go to Alicia. The numbers you mentioned are backed up. 27 statewide recounts we've seen in the last 15-year period where they did a study. Only 3 reversed the first initial results that you had, and those were a swing of about 282 votes, not the 12,000 we're sitting on.
Right. I mean, I think, though, this is bigger than Florida. It's bigger than Gillum. It's bigger than Nelson. This is about a moment in our country's history where the country feels so bitterly divided along partisan lines. Clearly, the state feels divided along those lines. And so what is the one thing you can do in a moment when your democracy feels that fragile? You can guarantee that the participation, that electoral participation is guaranteed. And so I don't think it is a bad move strategically for Democrats to say, we are going to be the party who insists that every vote gets counted, even if at the end of the day that means that we lose.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Democrats aren't, alleging fraud. They're not, complaining like the Republicans and coming with these conspiracy theories. It's more about let's do this right, not fast, and make sure every vote counts. In my case, not that it's about me, it's about everyone else, but my vote didn't count, right? I'm a former Democratic member of Congress, and my signature hasn't changed in 20 years, and my vote didn't count. So,
and I have mixed feelings about that because on the one hand, your right to vote is important. On the other, you've been dining out on that story all week.
But it is ridiculous.
It's not about me, Ari.
It clearly is about you. But what this is exposing is that we have a system that is not set up for optimal participation. And so, part of it is about this signature match, which my signature changes every 5 minutes. So bless you that yours has been the same for the last 20 years. But there are other things. I mean, do we want to be a country that shifts to automatic voter registration such that the onus of registering people to vote gets thrust back on the government rather than the individual? Do we want to have same-day voter registration? Do you want to have universal online registration? I mean, that's the conversation we should be having, not talking about how voting machines are overheating.
So we're deep into this discussion, and everyone has been sticking to the facts and the policy implications no matter who wins, which is, I think, a great thing for a news program. I do want to dig into the politics, Jason, which is you have a Republican Party where even when it's on pace to win, for the reasons just stated, there is a complete attack on the legitimacy of an election system that Republicans in Florida oversaw. In other words, Ms. Snipes came into power under Jeb Bush. Governor Scott is in charge of Florida. So if there are problems in the way these elections are being administered, that starts with him, and they don't seem to care about that. Does that concern you for our democracy?
Oh, of course it does. Look, he basically was trying to call troops. He was basically streaming guards and sending troops after Snipes just a couple of days ago because he was mad that he wasn't going to win. I think these attacks, not only are these attacks problematic, but the sort of inherent dishonesty of saying this system is corrupt until I'm winning. I mean, literally, the counts today actually expanded the lead for most of the Republicans. So I think, look, if anyone actually cared about the functioning of Florida, the functioning of the country, what you would do is say, the first thing I'm going to do now that I'm in office, as a senator, as a governor, I'm going to clean up these election machines. Simple things. The undercount between the governor's race and the Senate race, you could fix that by just having touchscreens that remind you, did you want to leave this blank? These are not complicated ideas. The problem is, I don't think the Republican Party is interested in that. They're interested in instead screaming that we have an unfair, a corrupted system by Democrats that we have to constantly battle against.
I mean, the irony here is that everyone expects Scott to win, and then if you follow his logic, he has been ushered into office in an election that he believes was rife with fraud. So that would seem to then delegitimize his own power. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just, doubling down here. I hate to be a pessimist, but I think Donald Trump and Rick Scott are sort of laying the groundwork for 2020, where we are inevitably probably going to have a close election, assuming Trump's still in office, of course, but going to lay the groundwork for fraud and conspiracy. Who knows where that goes? But the fact that we're having this conversation about signatures, about machines overheating in this day and age is somewhat laughable.
Do you want to meet us here in 2 years, a week out from 2020?
Let's schedule it right now, and it'll probably be Broward and Palm Beach again.
Now, will you be telling your story about the 2018 election, or will you have a new story?
I'm going to hang on that forever at this point, Ari.
Jason, narrative is very important if you're a candidate for office. What I'm going to do is fit in a break. Jason, Alicia, stay with me. Congressman, as always, appreciate you being a part of our coverage, knowing Florida so well as you do. Coming up, we have a lot more.